Good Erev Shabbos, everybody. Welcome back once again to the weekly Shir in Pirkei Avos. Rabbi Gershon Avtzon here in Cincinnati, Ohio. This week, we learn Perek Shishi, the sixth Perek, for the second time in Tavshin Pei. We are finishing, with the thanks of the Eibishter, with the help of Hashem, the second cycle of Pirkei Avos of this year, learning one Mishnah a week. This week, we are going to be focusing on the first Mishnah of Perek Shishi. The truth is that there are many shiurim. We've spoken about this Mishnah in the past, but as Torah is endless and Torah is Hashem's Chachma, there are always more nuances. There are always more things in which we can delve into, try to understand deeper, and to really internalize in our avodas Hashem. The background of our Mishnah, we know that Perek Shishi are a bunch of braises that were added to Pirkei Avos, and its nickname is Perek Kinyan Torah, which speaks about the tremendous power and the tremendous koyach and the tremendous gift that Torah is, that Hashem gave us the Torah. And that's why it's always the Perek that we read right before Shavuos, Man Matan Torah Seinu. And the first Mishnah, which is given over in the name of Remeir mainly, is explaining to us the power, the importance of Limud Torah Lishma, learning Torah for the sake of Hashem, for the sake of Torah, for the true purpose of Torah, not for any personal gain, benefit, but rather purely because with this, you are with the Eibishter doing what he wants, connecting to his chachma, and bringing the Eibishter's kedusha into your own life. It's all for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Mishnah tells us, Reb Meir says, Kol ha'osek b'Torah lishma, somebody that gets involved in learning Torah lishma, is totally involved, his limud Torah, and his involvement with the limud Torah is lishma, he will get many things. Not just he'll get many things, that the entire world and the whole creation of the world is fitting for him. It's kedai huloi. And then the Mishnah tells us about many tremendous benefits that they get. You're called loved by the Eibishter, friend of the Eibishter, tzaddik, yosher, tamim. You have all these wonderful attributes that come to the person when somebody learns Torah Lishma. Now, we are not going to get into, we've spoken about this in the past, if somebody's learning Torah Lishma, you don't have to tell him all the benefits that he's getting. The whole idea is that he's not thinking about any benefits, and here the Mishnah enumerates many benefits. But in our shir today, we are going to be focusing on four main points, four nikudas, four things. One is just to clarify what it means to be oisik b'Torah lishma, that you're invested, you're working in Torah lishma. What's the deeper connotation to the word oisik? Also, what are these dvarim harbe? It says that you merit many things. Now, the simple taich is that it's referring to the things which are later on in the Mishnah, all the benefits that Remeir enumerates. However, the fact that it is cut off with the words of loy oid el shekol olam kulay kedai huloi, and the fact that the Mishnah is not looking to just add words. There seems to be a remes, seems to be hinting to us that there really is a deeper meaning to the words dvarim harbe, that there's something that the Mishnah is telling us which is not written later in the Mishnah. There's a special thing called dvarim harbe that you merit if you learn Torah Lishma, and it's such a thing that cannot be explained explicitly, clearly in the Mishnah, and only if you learn the Mefarshim can you understand what those Dvarim Harbe are. So we're going to try to learn some of the Mefarshim to understand what are those Dvarim Harbe, what are those many things that a person merits when they learn Torah Lishma. Then the Mishnah adds, V'loi oid, not only that, even more, Kol ha'olam kulai kedai hu loi, that the whole world is kedai for him. What does that mean, that the whole world is kedai for him? A little bit to understand better, what does that mean, that the whole olam kulai, the whole world is kedai for him? Like, what's this addition over Dvarim Harbe? What are we trying to say with this words, which was really got me invested to learn this Mishnah this week, was trying to understand those words. What is that line? What is that benefit of kol ha'olam kulai kedai hulai? And finally, the last thing which we're going to try to understand is seemingly if you take that line, kol ha'olam kulai kedai hulai, if you say it to yourself once or twice, you're going to see that there seems to be a repetition. Kol ha'olam kulai. I mean, if it's kol, it's kulai. What's the addition? Kol ha'olam kulai. Could have said kol ha'olam kedai hulai. What does it mean? Kol ha'olam kulai, the entire whole world. If it's kol, it's kulai. If it's kulai, it's kol. What does that mean? Kol ha'olam kulai, the entire whole world kedai hulai. What is that word kulai? There must be something there. I mean, probably most of us never thought about it. But there must be something in that word, kulai, which is teaching us something that we may not have thought of on our own. That the fact that the Mishnah repeats itself, kol ha'olam kulai, there is something here to teach us. So these are the 4 points that we are going to be focusing on in today's shir. So let's start with the word oisik. So the standard explanation, and this I'm sure many of you heard many times, and it's also brought in a previous Perek where it speaks about that kol mi she'osek b'Torah, the Eibishter gives the brachas, I think it's Perek Chamishi, ein lecha ben choydin ela mi she'osek b'Torah, that when you really want to think about your connection to Hashem through limud HaTorah, there are 2 ways that we can do that. We could be a loimed b'Torah, or we could be a oisik b'Torah. Loimed b'Torah means you fulfill your requirements. You're like a worker that fulfills, clocks in on time, leaves on time, 9 to 5. They clock in and they really do an honest day's work. It's not that they're just playing around. It's an honest day's work. It's oisik b'Torah. It's loimed Torah. He's a true person that learns Torah. There's no question about that, and there's a lot of benefit to that. However, that person is limited to his learning. It's not his life. It's not kihem chayenu. However, somebody that's oisik b'Torah, somebody that is invested, that means that that's his life. It doesn't stop and it doesn't begin. An owner of a business there's no off. So many people ask me always in the summer, like, oh, besides what we actually do have yeshiva in the summer, you enjoy your vacation. There's no such, when you run a moisid, there's no such thing as vacation. You could leave the geographic location of your institution, but it doesn't take away the fact that that's where your mind is, that's where your heart is. There's no separating yourself. There's no separating yourself from the whole idea of what you're doing. So therefore, the oisik is somebody that's truly, truly, truly invested and learning, and that's his life. And that's the one pirush in oisik. I saw another pirush in the name of Reb Chaim Volozhiner, and he says that oisik means that not just the learning is lishma, but the preparations for learning. In other words, there's a lot that goes into a project. There's the project itself, and then there's all the hachanis, all the preparations that go into the project. And same thing with limud HaTorah. There's the actual learning, and then there's the hachanis, the preparation that goes into limud HaTorah. Now, that preparation, that that hachana, that investment of your mind and heart, and everything that goes into, that's part of the oisik b'Torah lishma. That's not just the learning, but every part of your avodas Hashem, which leads up to the learning, as well, is also lishma. That's the oisik b'Torah lishma. Those are the special brachas. It's not just that you're learning Torah lishma, but you're actually being oisik b'Torah lishma. So now, what does it mean? The dvarim harbe. What are these many things? So there are many biurim. There are dvarim harbe. There are many biurim on this word. And if you open up the mefarshim, it's an endless thing because everyone's trying to understand the mystery of the words dvarim harbe. I'm going to share with you four pirushim. We'll start with the simple types. The simple taich is from the Tiferes Yisrael. He's the one that gives a pirush on the Mishnah. If you open up a standard Mishnayis, Perek Shishi, just like the Gemara, the Chumash has Rashi. So your Mishnah will, the Pashtus, have a Tiferes Yisrael on it. And the Tiferes Yisrael says that it's referring to Arichas Yamim, Brachis V'atzlochis, Oisher V'chaved, Hamuskarim Kulam B'avtochesh Sheb'Toriseinu Akdoisha. He teaches it to me that throughout the Torah, there are brachas, there are special things that Torah Shebechsav tells us about. The Mishnah later will add brachas to it, all the extra stuff that the Mishnah, Torah Shebal Peh, refers to. But the actual Dvarim Harbe are referring to the main things which are already spoken about in Torah Shebechsav. So that's how he explains the difference. That Dvarim Harbe is the things which are written in Torah Shebechsav, and the rest of the things are things which are written in Torah Shebal Peh. But that's the simple pshat. The Shalah HaKadosh, the Helek Shalom, in his Pirush, he adds a much deeper dynamic. He says that when the Eibishter gave the Torah, the Eibishter gave 613 mitzvahs. The Eibishter gave 613 mitzvahs. Now, these 613 mitzvahs correspond to the 613 parts of a person. We know that there are 365 shasagidim, ramachivorim. The person, it's built based on not based on the person, really the person's reflected of the Torah. The idea is that it's supposed to elevate and it's supposed to make holy every part of a person. Every mitzvah that we do elevates and corresponds and really brings kedusha to another part of our body, of our existence. But we have a problem. The problem is that we don't do all the mitzvahs. We don't do 613 mitzvahs. First of all, in the time of Golus, there's so many mitzvahs that we cannot do. There's so many things that we're held back from doing. And even in the times of Mashiach, you think about someone that's not a kohen, someone that doesn't own land, all these dinim, trumes, maisres, all the things that are connected with the land of Eretz Yisrael, the avodah, the karbonis, and the Beis Hamikdash, which we're not bringing. So there are so many mitzvahs that we don't do. There's a mitzvah, for example, like someone has a mitzvah, he's machzor grushosai, someone got divorced and they got remarried. Like, that's not a mitzvah l'chatchila. There's so many mitzvahs that are given to us, which are only in certain scenarios, only in certain cases. So how are we supposed to elevate the part of our body, the part of our neshama, the part of our existence, which is totally dependent on the mitzvahs that are connected to it? So says the Shalah HaKadosh, when a person learns Torah Lishma, Machshava Toiva HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mitzaref L'Maisa. When somebody learns that part of Torah, the Eibishter connects it to the part of the person that is connected to that mitzvah of the Torah. But that only works if the Torah is Lishma. If the Torah is not Lishma, then your body, your Aver, your existence doesn't get that elevation that comes with the Limud HaTorah. When do you get that elevation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzaref l'maisa, that the Eibishter actually uplifts that part of the person? That's when the person learns Torah Lishma. Without it, it's limud Torah, and it's a wonderful thing. But that limud is not Lishma. That limud is not. That limud is not for the Eibishter's sake, and therefore, because it's not for the Eibishter's sake, therefore, Einay Mitzaref L'maisa, therefore the Eibishter does not bring it down. So now that is the Dvarim Harbe, says the Shelah Kodesh, that Kol Aloyme Torah Lishma Zoichel Dvarim Harbe. That Dvarim Harbe is the Dvarim Harbe is the elevation of the body that comes through learning that part of Torah. Then there is a third pshat. That this third pshat is based on a vort of the Baal Shem Tov. Now the Baal Shem Tov said this vort. Now, if you open up different Hasidic Sfarim, you're going to find this vort elaborated on in many different nuances. So I'm just going to share with you the foundation, the yisoid of this vort. And when you understand the yisoid, so if you see other mefarshim or you come up with ideas of your own, it's all based around this vort. And that is that the word dvarim has to be understood as the word diburim. There's dvarim means objects, things. Diburim means speak, words. A person, words is a gift. Words is a gift. To be able to speak in front of the Eibishter, when Esther Hamalka came to King Achashverosh, she had to get Reshus Hadibur. She had to get permission to talk. You don't speak in front of a melech without permission. And in truth, Dibur connects people with each other. And when we connect with somebody which is not on the proper level, Beruchnias, even by just discussing, talking to them, that itself creates a bond. The Dibur connects the Neshama. So therefore, the Koyach HaDibur is a very, very special, even the ability to stand in front of the Eibishter, Lamoid, L'Spalel, in front of the Eibishter, we could do it. But then the question is, did you earn the right to these words? Are you just doing it because you need to do it? Or have you earned the right to talk? Have you earned the right of the Koyach HaDibur? Have you earned the ability to use your Dibur? And therefore, Zoichel Dvarim Harbe, says the Helike Baal Shem Tov, is referring to the Koyach HaDibur, the ability to be able to speak, the ability to be able to communicate bein Adam l'chaveroi, to our friends without being influenced by others, and bein Adam l'mokim, to talk to the Eibishter. It's a big gift, the Koyach HaDibur. And when you learn Torah Lishma, the Eibishter gives you the special gift of Dvarim, of Dibur, the Koyach to speak. And then there's one more vort I want to share. I share it because it's so geschmack, especially as Hasidim. And this I saw in the name of the Tisker Tzaddik. The Tisker Magid, Tisker Tzaddik, was a city of Trisk. And he was a very big tzaddik. As a matter of fact, there was a Yid here who was a survivor of the Holocaust. And Mr. Sam Boimel, Reb Sholem ben Brochel, Lias Nishmosai, he was from Trisk, and he would talk about the Trisk tzaddik, the base that on his yard side people would come. It was like a very, very special person. And the Trisker Magid, he says like this. Everyone, the chassid in you will light up with this vort. He says that the word harbe is the same gematria as the word rebbe, because hey and hey is yud, is 10. Then you have reish beis. A person on their own doesn't have the koyach to understand his Rebbe. The Gemara says that it takes 40 years to koyach daito de Rabbe, to be able to get to the level of your teacher. It takes 40 years. Rebbe represents a high level. The Gemara says that those in Eretz Yisrael were called Rebbe, those in Chutz La'aretz were called Rav. The idea of Rebbe is a gewaldige Zach. If you learn Torah Lishma, Zoich Ledvorim Harbe, you're Zoich to the words of the Rebbe, you're able to, the way I want to take it, you're able to really connect to the people that they learn Chassidus, and it doesn't affect them. They feel like they work so hard, they learn the Maimer, they learn the Sicha, they learn the Rebbe's letter, and it doesn't affect their neshama. Like, what happened? But you didn't do it Lishma. When you learn it Lishma, you're Zoich Ledvorim Harbe. You're Zoich to the word, you're Zoich to the inyan of the Rebbe. And that's something that everyone on their own can think about, internalize, and try to take in to their avodas Hashem. Now, what is the Kedai Huloi, the third part of our shir? What does it mean that the Kol Olam Kuloi is Kedai Huloi? So let me start with the Gemara in Brachos. The Gemara says, Brachos Nun Ches Amud Aleph, Ben Zoyma Ra Uchlosa Agav Maila Bahar Abayis. When Ben Zoyma came and he saw a large multitude of people gathered by the Har Abayis, by Beis Hamikdash. So first thing he said, Baruch Chacham Arozim. We know that when you see hundreds of thousands of Yidden, you make a special bracha to Hashem that he's Chacham Arozim, that he's able to, they created so many different individuals. But then he made another bracha. Ubaruch, he blessed Hashem, Shabara Kol Elu, that he created all these people, L'shamsheni, to serve me. So Rashi says, what does it mean, L'shamsheni, to serve me? Sheim Chorishim B'zorim, they plow and they plant. Vani Moitzi Muchan, I find it prepared. Now, seemingly, what does that mean? That he created other people he's taking advantage. Ben Zoyim is saying it's a haughty statement that, oh, everyone here is to serve me. Ben Zoyim was tzaddik. And in the real world, in the way the Eibishter created the world is here, tzaddik yisoid olam. The world is here to serve the needs of this tzaddik. That's truly the case. Tzaddik yisoid olam. The Rambam explains a very famous Pirush HaMishnayos, when the Rambam says that the Eibishter sometimes will create a whole palace and a whole area so that a tzaddik could walk by one day and have shade in that area. So the whole building and the whole infrastructure that went into that building, that edifice, was to provide the shade, to provide for the tzaddik. So the truth is that Kol Olam Kuloi, the entire word, Kol Olam Kuloi, Kedai Huloi, it's Kedai for him. Alspa say there? Yeah, everything okay? Yeah, I'm giving a share. Everything okay? Okay, we'll talk. Yeah. So, Kol Olam Kuloi, Kedai Huloi is fit for him. It's for him. That's one way, the very simple way that the whole world was created for this person. Like there's actually Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Lamed Amud Beis. The Gemara says, it's a pasuk we all know, Soif Davar Kol Nishma, at the end everything is heard. As Elikim Yodei, you should fear the Eibishter, with Mismois of Shemar, and to guard and to fulfill and guard his mitzvahs. Kizeh Kol Adam. This is the whole person. So the Gemara asks, My Kizeh Kol Adam. What does it mean, Kizeh Kol Adam? Rebbe Lezer says, Kol Olam Kuloi le'nivra ela b'shvil zeh. The whole world was created for this person. This is what the whole world was created for someone to learn Torah Lishma. Yistako b'iraisu b'ra'alma. The world was created to learn Torah Lishma. And the Medrash tells us something even deeper. The Medrash tells us, that the world gets its sustenance through limud Torah. And therefore, if there's no limud Torah lishma, the Torah that's not lishma is very hard to bring chayis to the world. So the fact that the world exists is from that tzaddik, that person that learns Torah lishma, like the Gemara says that kol olam nizayin b'schus b'chanina ben doisa. The whole world gets its sustenance in the merit of Chanina ben doisa. But there were other people learning Torah, but there's the level of Torah lishma, which mandates a certain, and brings a certain bracha to the world. So the truth is, kol olam kulay kedai huloi. The whole world is getting its chayis, and it's for this person because it's getting its chayis from the Torah, the one that learns Torah lishma. Now, when I was preparing this Mishnah, I had the thought how to teach the Mishnah, but it was a little bit, I thought it was a little radical. But then I actually checked, and I saw it in the Sefer Ma'arei Nayim. The Ma'arei Nayim was written by the Menachem of Chernobyl, the Chernobyl Rebbe. And he says this word, which is very, very geschmack. And I want everyone to understand it. And in order to appreciate it, I'll tell you a word, the story they say in the name of Reb Nissen Nemenov, who was a very legendary chassid, mashpia in France. And they asked him the first time he flew on an airplane. So they asked him, what was your impression of the airplane? What was your impression of the experience? So he said the following thing. When I went on the airplane, I internalized something. What did I internalize? He says, as me werd hecher, werd die Welt kleiner. When you elevate yourself, the world becomes small. What does that mean? Simply on a plane, you're on the level ground level. When you go up, you see that the whole world gets smaller because you're seeing it from a broader, higher perspective. So the rest of the world becomes small. But there's a deep lesson in Avodas Hashem. We have our temptations that we fight with and that we have to deal with, our nisyonis. Now, these nisyonis and these things are, to our eyes and our hearts and our minds, they're very big. They're very big. However, when we elevate in our avodah, when we lift ourselves up in our avodas Hashem, then we don't have to fight with it anymore. A lot of it just becomes small. These struggles, these challenges, these nisyonis become, small because we're riding with the Eibishter's koyach. And like the famous word from the Helikat Tzaddik, the mayor of Premishlan, when it's verbunden oben, fällt man nicht unten. When you're connected from above, you don't fall below. You have a higher koyach. You're on a higher sphere. You're on a higher level. So says the Menachem of Chernobyl that someone that learns Torah Lishma, kol ha'olam kulay kedai hulay. The word kedai is like the word dai, becomes sufficient. He doesn't have the olam haza becomes small and sufficient. His taivas don't burst. He loses his challenges that come with living in olam haza. Everything, his gashmias is fine. It's enough for him. All of a sudden, he finds that his physical needs, pleasures, desires is not challenging as much because he learns Torah Lishma. Kol ha'olam kulay, the entire world, kedai hulay, becomes small, becomes something that he can easily deal with because he's elevated himself through the Torah Lishma. Now, why does he repeat the kol ha'olam kulay? What's the double lashon? Kol ha'olam kulay. So there's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says, this is Sanhedrin Tzadik Tes Amud Beis. Amar Reb Alexandri said, Kol ha'osek b'Torah Lishma, somebody that learns Torah Lishma, Meisim Sholem b'Pamalya Shel Maila, Pamalya Shel Mata. He brings peace in this world, and he brings peace in the other worlds, in the higher worlds. In other words, there's a certain bracha that doesn't just permeate Olam Haza, it also permeates the higher worlds. So kol ha'olam kulay, say the Mefarshim, means he's not just bringing, it's not just the kedai huloi, the brachas that he's getting is from Olam Haza. But Kol Olam Kulei, all the worlds, even Olam Haba, Pamaya Shel Maila, is getting brachas from his Torah Lishma and Spusim for him. And the Medrash Shmuel, by the way, there's a very special end of that Gemara. The Gemara says someone that learns Torah Lishma, Ach Mikarev Esageula, which is the most important thing for us. The Limud Torah Lishma brings the Geula. And the Medrash Shmuel adds something. And the Medrash Shmuel says that sometimes you're the right person in the right moment. So if you did Torah, one way to look at it, you learn Torah, the Shema, the Olam, the way it is now, is Kedai Huloi, is fit for him. But he says, when the Tana adds the word, Kol Olam Kuloi, it means the world since the beginning of creation, all times of the world, Kol Olam Kuloi, not just the entire world the way it is now, but the entire world since creation, Kedai Huloi is fit for him and fitting for him. And that's the power of Torah Lishma, that it brings the brachas to the person, to the world, to the Geula to the world. And it's connected to Balak. In this Parsha, Balak Tavshin on Aleph, the Rebbe told us, revealed to us, that the direct path to bring Mashiach is by learning Gulu Mashiach. And if regular learning Gulu Mashiach is such a tremendous thing for this world, can you imagine when you learn Gulu Mashiach Lishma, you invest your Neshama, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai Yechida, the brachas that come through learning Gulu Mashiach. And this is a tremendous lesson that we can take and we internalize from this Mishnah. And this is a special bracha, each and every one of us in our Avodas Hashem.